Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Here tonight to speak about Fort Collins utilities and our sustainability efforts. We really take sustainability very seriously, but we are sensitive to the word sustainability. It's a real nebulous term. They can mean a variety of things to a variety of people. A lot of people associate it solely with the environmental component of sustainability. Certainly it's a lot more than that. It's about social sustainability and economic sustainability as well as the environmental part. I will say probably the economic part is really what precipitated the sustainability movement, if you will, in Fort Collins. This is a simple definition of sustainability, meeting the needs of the present while not compromising the future of our children. So why do we do it? We really want to leave a legacy to our children, to the future generations. We want to save money. Like I said, we got into it for monetary reasons. We want to provide means for our customers to efficiently use natural resources. Utilities are very resource intensive. We're famous for resource development. And of course, we want to be responsible in that environmental sense too. Fort Collins Utilities is a municipal-owned utility. We go back to the 1800s. We're proud of our history. We have a drinking water utility, a wastewater utility, a stormwater utility, and an electric utility, which is the distribution part of the system. Our wholesale power provider is Platte River Power Authority. These utilities really drive the economy and the character of Fort Collins and northern Colorado. And so they're very important to all of our businesses. And in fact, they're the reason a lot of businesses are located in Fort Collins, is because of the utilities, because of the quality of our water and the reliability of our electric system are the two most oft-cited reasons why businesses come to Fort Collins. The previous utility manager left in 2007, and I came on board in 2007. And we were facing a bit of a crisis at that time with resources, resource development in particular. We had a wastewater treatment plant that was built in 1948 with belly up on us. That's the economic part. That was a $30-some million bill that came out of nowhere for us. Utilities are incredibly capital intensive, and it takes a lot of money to run a utility. We were also going through a period of dramatic change, and you'll hear statements, this is from a gentleman, many believe that the utility industry will change more in the next 5 years than in the previous 50. Well, I've been in the utility industry for quite a long time, and the rate of change is rapidly accelerating. I don't know about the 5 years versus the previous 50, but I can tell you that things are changing dramatically and very fast. You know, I mentioned before about the resource development. When we needed more water in the 1970s, we built a new reservoir, Joe Wright Reservoir. We do need more storage right now. In fact, in about the late 70s, we identified the need for additional water storage. And we have projected to have that online in 2010. Here it is, 2013. We're about $8 million into the permitting process, and about 8 years in the permitting process. And we haven't even got to the first step of a draft environmental impact statement. what we could do in a couple of years in the 70s will probably take us decades to do if we can do it at all in the 2000s. The photo is the Rawhide Power Station. That was built in the 70s. We abandoned our old power plant in downtown Fort Collins, coal-fired plant, and built a new modern coal-fired plant north of town. That was done relatively quickly. I don't know that we will ever be able to build coal-fired generation again. So, that's the status of resource development and the stress it's putting on the utility sector. And a lot of these issues that are forcing these constraints are really global in nature, rather than local. Certainly some of them are local. Certainly the water issues are very local. There's groups that have formed to oppose any kind of water development along the North Front Range, and that makes it difficult. But a lot of the issues are global too. I was just reading a book. It was actually part of the APPA's spring CEO conference, which I didn't make because it was a couple of weeks ago we were having a blizzard. It's called Unquenchable, but it talks specifically, it was about water and power, and we were going to discuss it at the conference. But one of the rivers that was mentioned in this book was the Poudre River, and about how over-appropriated it is, and how most of the time it doesn't even reach the Platte River. So those are the issues. I mean, we're maybe a local issue, but it's in books being distributed nationally. It's a national issue. One of the things that we've really seen, and I don't know how anybody feels here about climate change, but we're believers in climate change. We see it. In Colorado, because of the university, we have climate records going back to the 1800s. And we have probably the most complete set of climate records in Colorado. We've done tree ring dating going back to the 1500s. We have stream flow gauging station records in northern Colorado. We have seen the trending over time in terms of reduction of snowpack, a more rapid melt of snowpack, and an earlier onset of that runoff that we depend on. We're very low in storage in northern Colorado, and we've historically relied on the snowpack to provide that storage. Well, it's all coming earlier now because of climate change. And, we figure it's about 30 days earlier because of climate change, and then we run out of water earlier in the year because it all melts. We also are in an area that is unique with the mountains in storm events. We have had, I don't know if this is true any longer, but I think the only two FEMA declared national disasters have been in northern Colorado, and they've both been floods. Our most recent flood was the '97 flood. That flooded, was a flash flood that came through town and killed 7 people. We've had flooding several times over the years, not that severe, but several times over the year that have been major storm events. When you understand climate change, it isn't just global warming, it's the radical changes in the climate. So we're seeing less precipitation, less snowpack, more severe storm events. We also had a tornado in northern Colorado in Windsor a couple summers ago, so and that affected our power system. Resource scarcity is certainly an issue for all of us. Oil, natural gas, we're seeing increased competition for our coal from overseas. We're seeing shortage of construction materials. As those materials get more expensive, there's weird things happening. People are stealing our wires out of our light system. Downtown lighting, we have rampant theft of copper wire out of the lights downtown because it's so valuable. We have people breaking into our yards, cutting fences, and stealing copper that we use for our electric system. It's a little bit scary out there right now. And of course, the unstable financial situation that we've had over the last couple of years. Very concerned about security. This is out of a report from Sandia Labs, talking about the critical nature of both water and power security and infrastructure in the United States. Certainly cybersecurity. Luca and I were talking a little bit about cybersecurity when I first came up here, and that's another very critical issue for us. We have an aging workforce. This is part of sustainability, being able to sustain operations. Engineers, I heard a local recruiter, Carl Mykoff, talk about how the power industry needs 2,000 electrical engineers a year. We're graduating about 500 in the United States. We've had engineering positions vacant for 3 years because we haven't been able to fill them. A lot of people are my age. A lot of my employees are my age. I'm retiring in a year. We have retirement almost every week. And of course, aging infrastructure. I mentioned the incident about the water, the wastewater treatment plant, and how that shocked us. We should have been more on top of that. We should have anticipated that infrastructure failing long before it hit us. And we should have been prepared economically for that. Some of our infrastructure that we rely on, some of our water pipelines that provide water, to the plant or to the Rawhide Power Station. Some of those lines go back to the 1920s. 1923 is the oldest line. We're on a program of asset management and infrastructure replacement. To us, that's all part of being a sustainable utility, managing your assets. I'm not so sure about shifting from a growth utility to a maintenance utility. Fort Collins is very constraining. We've bought up a lot of open space around Fort Collins. And when I first put this slide together, and for the last couple of years, we've been thinking about how we're going to be shifting from that growth of growing our boundaries out to being more of a maintaining what we have. We are going through economic growth in Fort Collins that's just unbelievable. I haven't seen it like this since the 70s. But we're tearing down a lot of the old parts of town and going up. So we're building up, down out. So I'm not so sure about that last statement of shifting from a growth utility to a maintenance utility. But what really, certainly there's that economic aspect, there's that resource aspect, but also in 2007, we did a customer satisfaction survey. And, statistically valid survey of all of our residential customers and all of our commercial and business customers. And when we got the survey back, we were really pretty shocked. We considered ourselves to be fairly green, fairly sustainable, where our customers expected us to be, wanted us to be, was up here. And not only that, but they were willing to pay more to become more sustainable and more green. They also identified security of the system as another reason why what they wanted us to, we call it a gap. We had a gap in security and a gap in the environmental sustainability aspect. And so we call that the environmental gap. So since 2008, we've really been wrapping up our environmental programs. Feeling pretty good about our water supply, feeling pretty good about some of the things going on. Well, last year we had the Hyde Park fire. And there's a lot of beetle kill forest in Colorado. Some people would say a lot of that's because of climate change. The environment. One of my professor friends is a plant pathologist or whatever, I don't know what he does, but he studies forests and trees. And what we've created, our climate has changed enough, so our trees and forests have become susceptible to a lot of these diseases that weren't here before, and a lot of the insects, invasive species that weren't here before. If you travel to the mountains, you'll see a lot of dead trees. Well, 2012, we got hit by the Hyde Park fire. It's 87,000 acres in our water supply. We have water. Even last year in the drought, we had water, but it was coming down black, silty, smoky smelling, a lot of hydrocarbons, a lot of other compounds in it that we couldn't use. We didn't have the treatment technology. In fact, there's very little treatment technology they can use to deal with it. So we have to bypass a lot of that water. We're also, a little bit of trivia here, we're also famous at Fort Collins for our brewing industry. People may not know it, but being a water utility, we produce about 1 million gallons of beer a day. But water quality, we're working with our customers right now. That fire, water quality, is one of the biggest concerns our customers have. So this year, our challenge is to continue to produce high quality drinking water so they can continue to produce beer. So what did we do in response to all this? We started what we call the 21st Century Initiative. And I'm going to speed up here, and with the goal to become a sustainable utility. And to me, sustainability is about changing the culture of an organization. And you do that through your employees. And so we empowered our employees to start this initiative, which we call the 21st Century Initiative, to form teams on their own to look at issues of environmental compliance, environmental sustainability, how do we manage our knowledge transfer, how do we make sure that the knowledge stays within the utility with all the requirements. And I'll just talk about that for a minute. We have a team, 100% employees, that I have given the authority to create a knowledge management program for all of the utilities. Well, they have come up with fantastic ideas, a fantastic program of transitioning to retirement, transitional retirement, how we overhire, how we bring in additional employees to fill positions so that there's overlap, work with a mentor, and make sure that knowledge is transferred in the utility. So that's one way we are becoming sustainable. It isn't so much a disaster anymore when somebody leaves. I remember one utility I worked in. We had a question about something. I won't mention the utility. We had a question about something. And I was asking this question, and my manager said, well, go talk to Alex. And I said, well, where's Alex? And he gave me this address on the street. It turned out to be a cemetery. Alex was dead. You know, that's where the knowledge went when Alex went. So we're taking care of that now. We have what we call this 21st Century Umbrella. We have a culture team, a stakeholder team. We actually involve our customers, our businesses in sustainability. We're trying to inspire the community and community leadership into a sustainability ethic. We have our triple bottom line team. We have our workforce issue team, which is where the knowledge management system resides. All of these are run by employees. They've come up with great ideas. We have biological odor control. They independently decided they were going to go out and get certified, ISO 14001, environmental certification. They have created great programs to really reduce our energy use at our plants. The biggest energy users in Fort Collins are our own utilities, the water and wastewater plants. And they've also developed a low impact urban development program. That's all part of engaging our workforce, making sure that we have business continuity within the workforce. Some of the challenges we're finding, the fire caused us to collaborate much more extensively with the county, with the city of Greeley, with local water districts. Snowstorms, recent blizzards caused us to collaborate with the other Clappers cities on returning power to our customers. We're starting to see more and more of the utility look at doing things together in joint action agencies, or possibly even forming regional districts and authorities. This whole thing is caught on. Here, and I'm going to wrap up real quick here. In an economic sense, to create, again, a customer-initiated program called Fort Zed. It's a zero energy district in downtown Fort Collins. It's gotten about $20 million in federal funding from the Department of Energy. It also led to advanced meter Fort Collins. Again, we got about $37 million in Department of Energy funding to create a smart grid at Fort Collins that install advanced meters. We were recently named, I don't know if it made it to Denver. I used to be called that person from a cow town up north when I came to Denver to speak. But we were recently named as the Key City and Drive Electric, we call it Northern Colorado, the Electrification Coalition. This is, again, a privately funded coalition that asks Fort Collins utilities to participate in. We're the smallest utility participating in the Rocky Mountain Institute Z-Lab. And regarding sustainable agriculture and water, we have a water innovation cluster in Fort Collins. So business is really rallying around the sustainability concept and really growing. So with that, I'll wrap it up. We'll save questions for later.